Only 5 people survived Panfilo's expedition: Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca, Alonso del Castillo Maldonado, Andrés Dorantes de Carranza, and Estebanico were 4 of them. They traveled on foot through territories unknown to the Spanish in the southwest of the United States. Between 1528 and 1536, they managed to reach the capital of the newly created viceroyalty. Cabeza de Vaca is a Spanish captain who survived as a slave, servant, healer, and also as a friend of the natives. In 1542, he published the account of his odyssey in the book Shipwrecks and Commentary. Hernando de Soto's expedition traveled through southeastern North America between 1539 and 1543. From Florida, where they met Juan Ortiz, who served as an interpreter and guide until his death in 1541. They crossed the present-day states of Georgia and the Carolinas, crossed the Appalachian Mountains, and continued through Tennessee, Alabama, and Mississippi, arriving in 1541 at the river. De Soto is considered the first European to sight of the Mississippi. They crossed it and continued through Arkansas and Louisiana, where they again came across the Great River. De Soto died on its west bank in 1542. Luis Moscoso de Alvarado assumed command and led the expedition to western Louisiana and southwest Texas until it was decided to return to the Mississippi. They sailed downstream to the mouth and sailed along the coast of the Gulf of Mexico to the Panuco River. A small group commanded by Friar Marcos de Niza kicked off the exploration of the southwest with a reconnaissance made in 1539. It traveled through parts of Arizona and New Mexico. Antonio de Mendoza y Pacheco signed capitulaciones with Francisco Vázquez de Coronado to organize a new well-equipped expedition. It was composed of about 400 Spaniards and between 800 and 2,000 friendly Indians, mainly Tlaxcalans. From 1540 to 1542, traveled through Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. Several detachments explored places. Melchor Diaz led one of them. It crossed Arizona and reached the confluence of the Colorado and Yuma rivers. There, he managed to recover supplies left buried for them by the flotilla under the command of Hernando de Alarcón. Alarcón was the first European to sail upstream on the Colorado River. Another detachment, commanded by Garcia López de Cardenas, arrived at the Grand Canyon of the Colorado, being the first Europeans to see it. By the middle of the 16th century, the Spanish had traveled through virtually all of the southern United States and accumulated a great deal of knowledge about its geography and ethnography. New Mexico was the target of several small expeditions. In 1583, the royal decree authorizing the northward expansion of the Viceroyalty of New Spain had been published. It was not until 1595 that this enterprise was awarded to Juan de Oñate Salazar, who, after signing capitulaciones with the Viceroy, organized it at his own expense. They finally left in March 1598. Gaspar de Villagra says that 80 carts and several thousand heads of cattle formed a large caravan, including about 500 settlers, of which only 120 were men at arms and Tlaxcalan allies. On the left bank of the Rio Grande, Oñate established the capital of the new province, which he called San Juan de los Caballeros. He moved it to the right bank just a few months later, calling it San Gabriel. Governor Pedro de Peralta cited the capital for the third and definitive time by founding Santa Fe in 1610. It is currently the oldest state capital in the United States. In 1601, Oñate organized an expedition in search of Quivira, a mythical city of gold that is believed that they reached Texas, Oklahoma, and perhaps Kansas. In 1604, another expedition set out. It crossed Arizona and reached the Colorado River to its mouth at the Gulf of California. They were looking for a possible port through which they could receive supplies more easily than overland from Mexico. Since the late 17th century, faced with the French advance from Canada southward, Spain organized several expeditions from Santa Fe to assess and stop the advance, and also that of the Comanches. In 1720, Pedro de Villasur's expedition went as far as Nebraska, but it was massacred along the Platte River by Pawnee Indians equipped with French firearms. The threat forced Spain to expand through southern Texas to block their way to the heart of New Spain. In 1718, the San Antonio de Valero Mission, the San Antonio de Bear Presidio, and the town of San Antonio were founded along the San Antonio River. But it was not until 1721 that the expedition of the Marqués de Aguayo managed to reoccupy East Texas, leaving behind several missions and presidios. Los Ades was the capital of the province between 1729 and 1770. The arrival of a few settlers and cattle were the beginning of the permanent Hispanic presence in that territory. The term presidio was used for the posts and forts that defended the imprecise northern border of the viceroyalty. Soldiers were known as presidiales, also as soldados de cuera, or simply cueras, because of the long leather vests they wore to protect themselves from arrows and knives. California, like Texas, had to be occupied to stop the advance of a foreign power. Alta California was far from other provinces of New Spain, and access to it was difficult. In 1769, the expedition led by Gaspar de Portola and Friar Junipero Serra marked the beginning of the Spanish presence in that region. Missionaries, French explorers in the service of Spain, and military men such as the Ansas, Comancheros, and Ciboleros both made great voyages through places in the current United States. During the 18th century, military engineers or militias captain Bernardo de Miera y Pacheco generated an important series of maps. They were the first maps of many parts of North America.